Welcome to You Infinite Podcast. I'm delighted to introduce you a remarkable young man from Myanmar who has dedicated his life to advocating for democracy and creating positive change in his country. He's a youth advocate who has worked tirelessly to raise awareness about the importance of democracy and human rights, and his efforts have earned him recognition both locally and internationally. He's true inspiration for all of us and a shining example of what young people can achieve when they set their minds on something big. Thu Ta is with me, and he's also just getting ready to graduate from his program in leadership and education, right, Thu Ta?
Yes, yes.
Without any further ado, why not take the lead and introduce yourself a little bit?
Wow. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm graduating very soon in Education and Meteorology Policy and Leadership from the University of Oregon. I'm originally from Myanmar and I have been teaching and I'm a youth advocate for positive change. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Same, same, Thu Ta. Let's get started. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became interested in democracy and human rights? And if you can come a little bit.
Okay, so for me, I came from an privileged background. I was born very poor, but you know, like after high school, we call like matriculation exam in my country, and then I went to Lasho University. Lasho is my hometown, and in my undergraduate years and my master degree, I established like the student union at that time. Like my country started opening up to the international community after shutting down during the previous military regimes. Um, I started doing the voluntary work, the advocacy work, like with the student union and the student-led organizations. Like it's kind of like my university life was the beginning of my activist journey.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. So it's good to have, in my opinion, resources like a university that supports students. But I think that's something from inside you, like a personality trait, was guiding you, to take this action. Because there are a lot of resources here and there, and sometimes universities provide. But if students are not determined, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and are not motivated to be involved in these kind of things, nothing is happening.
Yes. The thing is like especially in my country, like when I studied my university life, like we did not have like the setup mechanism or the support system for the young people. Sometimes like when you want to create a change in your society, but you don't have anyone that you can look up to, like, oh, nobody hasn't changed anything yet in my community, but you can be the symbol of change, and then you can be the trailblazer. You need to blaze your own trail.
Sorry, just press the. Can you repeat this last thing
Yes.
and come? Because you see, like the closer you come,
O-
the clearer you hear yourself.
okay, so my point here is that sometimes like when we don't have anyone in our society as a symbol of change, you can be changed. So you can be the trailblazer. You can trace back your own motivation, and then
Mm-hmm.
you can set up your own example with your own actions.
Definitely, definitely, and this is a kind of thing that you did,
Yes.
and that's amazing. What are some of the biggest challenges facing Myanmar when it comes to democracy and human rights also?
So like Myanmar has been a notorious country for human rights abuses. We had the human rights crisis, the genocidal crimes committed by the military towards the Rohingya population in 2017. It's it's a bloodstained, like it's a terrible image for my country in the international arena. And we had the military coup in 1962, 2000, 1988, now 2021 again. It seems like Myanmar has been known for the human rights abuses and the terrible military regimes.
I see. Still, I'm seeing that you and all of your work and all of your studies are in this direction of education, leadership. Why exactly did you choose leadership and education? How this relates to facing and combating the challenges that Myanmar is facing right now?
So like when we think about like our own major, our trajectory in our life, we think like, oh, you are an educator, you teach the students. You are a soccer player, you play football, that's it. But the thing is not simple that much. Sometimes we need to find the intersectionality between the things we love. For example, I love my country, I love activism. At the same time, I'm an educator, I love education. So I found out the intersectionality between politics and education. So that's why my master project was the impact of military coup 2021 on the higher education in Myanmar. So this is how I think. Like sometimes we think in the one way and another, but why don't we combine the two to synergize the two concepts?
Mm-hmm. That's so wonderful. As you know, most of the time, from what I saw, people are choosing their majors because of what is popular, what gives you more rewards,
Mm-hmm.
more money, or what parents are telling them like advice. But you seem to combine your heart desires,
Mm-hmm.
your willingness to create a positive change with the resources that world was offering
Mm-hmm.
for this. And this is amazing. I applaud you for this. Can you tell me about a particular moment or experience that has been meaningful or impactful to your work or to this process of writing your thesis, your final year thesis?
Mm,
It can be literally anything that particularly stood up for you in this process because it's a process, right?
the process in the United States or the process in Myanmar?
The process, you choose. You can choose. I'm looking for something that really stood up for you while you were preparing this thesis and your final project,
I mean, it can also be my advocacy journey, but sometimes the people love the big names and then big label, activist, educator. For me, as a like Fulbright scholar, I got a Fulbright scholarship from the U.S. government as a Fulbright scholar. But what I think is that I think at the humanistic level, I'm a dad, but I'm not married. But my niece is like my own child, so I regard myself as a dad. So I look at my niece, I look at my nephew as my own children, and then they cannot go to school given the political situation. So looking at them and then looking at the future generation of Myanmar is my inspiration as an anchor. So it's not something that, oh, I want to do something because I want to be popular in Myanmar and across the world. Not like that. Because I love my niece and nephew. I love the children of my country. That's why I choose this major. That's what I'm doing. So this is who I am.
That's so wonderful. I hope your niece is doing well and she knows and she's aware of the fact that you like that she is such a big motivation
Yes,
for
yes.
you. Fantastic. What do you think that needs to be done in order to ensure that human rights are protected and respected in Myanmar?
I mean, the thing is we need actions from the global community. Sometimes like we release the documents and like some words of condemnation from the United Nations, from the United States, from the United Kingdom or European Union. Words are not helpful. Actions help the people. We need the actions from the global community to restore democracy and human rights for my people in Myanmar.
Totally. And particularly, are there like if you have to name three main actions that need to be taken, what would that be? In your opinion? I know it's a big question, because we all want to change your life, but you are also big mind.
Yes.
That's why I'm asking you.
So the thing is like when we approach our country situation, right now we rely on the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. It's not working. the very first action is that ASEAN needs to hand over the legitimacy of solving our issue to the United Nations Assembly, and this is the very first step. And then the second step would be like the United States, China, Russia, and every UN Security Council must come up with only one voice that we need to stop this one. From UN Security Council, yeah, we need to do it very quickly. The third thing is that we need to see our issue not as like a domestic issue or regional issue. We must see as like the democracy versus dictatorship.
Totally.
Those three actions would help the people.
Yeah, you mentioned something interesting, and this stood up for me. Like we have to see this issue not just as Myanmar issue, but an issue that it's about all the people, all the world, all the countries.
Yes.
Because in the end, we are all in the same boat. We are all in this together, and if Myanmar is not doing well, other countries won't do well, won't be happy, won't be productive. So we need to take ownership, not just say, okay, Myanmar is so far from US, from Romania, from everywhere. Let's not take care about them. Because I am aware of this, and I recognize, that I wasn't up to date with the conflicts that were there until I came here. Because I live in Europe, and there they talk about a lot about Ukraine, Russia, and so, which is important. Of course, it's people suffer, but people suffer everywhere. People suffer also in Myanmar, and press and social media plays an important role in how do we get to know this information. But knowing people like you, and this is my hope doing this podcast, that more people will become aware of the issues and will also know how to take some actions to help.
Yes, perfect.
How do you see the role of young people in promoting democracy and human rights in Myanmar and beyond? That's how I see it. Like the future, the hope stays in the young, not in the old. Like, of course, the old people right now are in the power, but the young generation, the children, the youth has so much power, and I'm looking to know and to get your opinion about your vision exactly on the power of the young people.
Wow. So we call the revolution. This is our revolution of different generations. Generation Y, myself, Generation Z, and Generation Alpha. So especially in Myanmar context, this Spring Revolution is like all about like the Generation Z. Like they come up with like the creativity, like the fearless motive to fight against the military junta to restore democracy and human rights. They have like the creativity. They have clear mind, clear objective. They are fearless in trying what they want to achieve for the country, and that's why I'm telling the international community is that this is the struggle of the whole Generation Z in Myanmar. So if you love the future of the country, you need to support Generation Z. You need to support the revolution of Generation Z in Myanmar. Generation Z are trying their best, sacrificing their lives and everything, sacrificing their education, sacrificing their family life, sacrificing their maybe dating life or everything. Like they are in the jungles, and then they are as urban guerrilla, like they are fighting against the military junta. So this is my sincere respect to Generation Z in Myanmar.
That's wonderful. So put more focus and support on Generation Z, because they are doing right now
they are at the front line.
The front line. That's fantastic. Good suggestion. What are some of the most effective strategies that you have used to raise awareness about these issues? I know one for sure. You were part of the World Poetry Night, and you could have choose to say every poetry, any poetry, like love poetry, happy poetry, sad poetry, but you chose to speak exactly about this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And this for me was touching because there was so many people in that room, more than 100 people, and they got to know this problem, got to know this issue, and more than this, they got to empathize because you chose the words in a very particular and touching way, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. I'm curious, what other ways, what other methods do you use to raise awareness about this issue?
Yeah, for this issue, like I am fearlessly advocating for our issue. Um, as an international student, the only graduate student from Myanmar at the University of Oregon, um, having this kind of like my own agenda, like, oh, I need to talk to my friends, like what's going on in Myanmar. But the thing is, like, you need to be brave, and you need to make sure that like your own community, so like the Eugene, the University of Oregon knows who you are, and then be brave, and then also be courageous, to be humble and sometimes vulnerable. For example, like don't be afraid to share your story. Don't be afraid to share your motive. Don't be afraid to share your bigger dream, for your country and for on October 27, 2022, I met Oregon Senator Jeff Markley on campus, and then we exchanged our views about like the Rohingya crisis and Myanmar politics. And I also delivered the speech, like the some talk at like the University of Oregon Toastmaster, like the campus church family, and then Holden Center leadership and everything. Whenever I have a chance to talk, I talk. Sometimes opportunity does not come twice. You need to grasp.
And you're very good at grabbing the opportunities and creating them. I noticed this.
Yes.
So I'm glad that you found this way, and I'm going to push you a little bit more, beyond your comfort zone, and challenge you to also spread the word on social media more than the things that you already do,
Uh-huh.
because you are such a powerful presence in terms of charisma, in terms of look, especially now with the new haircut, and you can do so much more, because people spend a lot of time on social media. Let's face it,
Mm-hmm.
and they consume, unfortunately, a lot of bullshit,
Mm.
things that relate to stars, let's say, but
Mm-hmm.
not to real issues, and we need people like you to advocate for these things also there. What do you think about this?
Yes, I mean, before I move on to your question, I have one point to mention about the previous question. It's like, sometimes like when you advocate, let's say for politics can be depressing. Sometimes you can be creative. You don't need to talk about politics all the time. You can talk about literature. You can talk about your own culture. You can talk about your language. That's what I did with the International May Center. Nobody has ever done Burmese language circle at the University of Oregon. It was unprecedented. So I studied Burmese language center circle, and then I talk about only Burmese language and Burmese culture. I did not talk about politics, but it's also something like indirectly uh, sharing. Like they might be curious. Like next time when they spot something on like New York Times or CNN, oh this is Tuta's country, this is where Tuta's come from. So like sometimes we can be creative, and we can approach uh, the bigger goal from different angle. We need creativity. Yeah, when it comes to like the social media is very powerful. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and everything. My point here is that when you want to advocate for something, um, you need to make sure that who are your target audience. Where are they? Are they on TikTok? Are they on Facebook? Sometimes if you want to reach out to the uh, people from professional backgrounds, you also need to utilize those kind of platform. For example, if I want to share the information with my own people, I use Facebook. If I want to share the information with the wider global audience, I use my LinkedIn. So like I use Facebook with my people, I use my LinkedIn platform with the international community. So this is something that we need to realize that you need to make use of the the right tools for the right cause.
Mm-hmm. Totally. That's a great point. And can you tell us about, let's say, uh, I know you have that saying with the lipstick. Can you uh, take a moment to recite a little bit of your poetry in English? So we get especially that part because that was very touching.
Yes.
If you remember it, of
Yes,
course.
yes, yes, yes. I did remember. In my recitation, well, at the War Poetry Night of the University of Oregon, I talked to the world that, dear the world, don't put on democracy lipstick just to look good. What I mean by that is like you need actions. Sometimes like we need to put on lipstick to look good. Democracy is not lipstick. Democracy is action.
Totally. It's not just a look.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put it for the public to see.
Yes.
We need some action. That's certainly the truth. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about Myanmar and its people?
So like whenever I talk about my country, the people know that the Rohingya crisis that happened in 2017, the military committed the genocidal crimes towards the Rohingya population. It's reality. The thing is that Myanmar is more than that. We have beautiful culture, we have beautiful people, and then another thing is like sometimes, oh, Buddhism is extreme. Oh, you're coming from like the extreme Buddhist country. Buddhism is not extreme, but some people are extreme and then they utilize the name of Buddhism for their own political agenda. So this is the thing that the international community need to unlearn. The second thing is like even when it comes to like 2021 military coup, sometimes I'm surprised that the people think that, oh, it is like the religious conflict between Buddhism and some minority like religions like Muslim, that kind of stuff. The people are still messing up with like the 2017 crisis and 2021 crisis. Yeah, these are the two big themes that people need to learn more about, like what's going on in Myanmar.
They tend to generalize a lot, from what I hear.
Yes, they think like, oh, Buddhist, you come from like the extreme Buddhist country.
That's an interesting thing, as it's a good opportunity for us to destroy those myths, and to make them to show the truth. Because in the end, a country is made by people.
Yes. I mean, like it's not about like Myanmar, right? Like every country has like bad guys and like good people. Like so, the people need to make sure that generalizing does not work in real world.
Certainly. I'm surprised to know that you are the first student from Myanmar that in the graduate student, and I totally applaud you for this. And I bet that there are more students in Myanmar who would like to and would love to come to US to do their studies. What advice do you have for them?
Okay, so let